The tennis off-season is usually quiet aside from a few low-key exhibitions, but things just got loud after the Australian Open entry list dropped 6 weeks early and was immediately overshadowed by absolute chaos. Coco Gauff has officially signed up for the wildest exhibition tennis has ever attempted, the One-Point Slam, a $1 million event happening mid-tournament at the Australian Open, where every match is decided by a single point. No sets, no games, no comebacks, just one rally for everything. Scheduled for January 14 at Rod Laver Arena, the event features 48 competitors made up of elite stars and amateur qualifiers from Australian state championships, meaning you could realistically see world-class champions facing regular players with $1 million on the line. Alongside Gauff, names like Jannik, Iga Swiatek, Carlos Alcaraz, Nick Kyrgios, Alexander Zverev, Alex de Minaur, and others have committed, turning this into a star-studded roulette wheel where consistency, endurance, and strategy mean absolutely nothing. From a purist's perspective, it's borderline madness. Top players risking rhythm, focus, and even reputation in the middle of a grand slam for a gimmick that reduces tennis to pure chance. But from a marketing standpoint, it's genius, engineered for chaos, virality, and casual fans who might never watch a 5-set match. For Gauff specifically, it's a smart brand move. At just 21, already a multiple-time Grand Slam champion with global appeal, she can afford the risk because, win or lose, the story benefits her, while the amateurs get a once-in-a-lifetime shot at history, a Kia EV3 for the last remaining non-pro, and bragging rights forever. Whether this is the most brilliant promotional idea tennis has ever produced or a complete circus that cheapens the sport depends on how you see tennis itself. But one thing is guaranteed: when $1 million comes down to a single point, the entire world is going to watch. And that's what makes this moment so fascinating, because the one-point slam isn't really about tennis at all. It's about attention, spectacle, and testing how far the sport can bend without breaking. Tennis has always relied on tradition, patience, and long-form drama, but this event flips that identity on its head by embracing randomness and instant payoff, the exact currency of modern social media. A single rally can erase rankings, resumes, and reputations, and that danger is precisely why it works. Every pro who steps on that court is gambling not just money, but image, ego, and legacy, while every amateur has nothing to lose and everything to gain. The tension won't come from rallies or scorelines, but from reactions. The disbelief, the laughter, the stunned silence when a lucky return clips the line and sends a superstar packing. Whether purists like it or not, this exhibition exposes a deeper truth about where tennis is headed. The sport is learning how to coexist with entertainment without fully surrendering to it. If this experiment succeeds, it could redefine how exhibitions are staged, how stars engage fans, and how tennis markets itself to a generation raised on highlights instead of matches. And if it fails, it will still be unforgettable. Either way, the moment $1 million comes down to one swing of the racket, tennis won't look quite the same again. And the fallout from this experiment is going to linger long after the final point is played, because once tennis opens the door to this level of spectacle, it can't fully close it again. If the one-point slam pulls massive ratings, dominates social media, and creates viral moments that spill beyond the tennis bubble, every tournament organizer in the world is going to start asking the same uncomfortable question: why aren't we doing something like this too? That's when the balance becomes dangerous, because the more tennis leans into gimmicks, the harder it becomes to convince casual fans that a 4-hour baseline war actually matters. Yet at the same time, ignoring the entertainment shift isn't an option either. The sport needs new eyes, new energy, and new stories, and chaos sells better than consistency in today's attention economy. For players like Coco Gauff, Jannik, and Iga Swiatek, it isn't about disrespecting tennis, it's about understanding the moment they're in. They're not just athletes anymore, they're global brands navigating a landscape where relevance matters almost as much as results. One outrageous exhibition won't define their careers, but it might define an era where tennis finally accepts that it can be both elite competition and unapologetic entertainment. And when that one point is played, whether it ends in laughter, shock, or controversy, it will perfectly capture where tennis stands right now, caught between tradition and transformation, risking everything on a single swing. And what really makes this moment resonate is how openly it challenges the idea of control in professional tennis. For decades, the sport has been built on minimizing randomness, long matches, multiple sets, and physical endurance, all designed to ensure the better player wins. The one-point slam does the exact opposite, putting elite athletes in a situation where preparation barely matters and nerves matter more than talent. That kind of discomfort is the point. Fans aren't tuning in to see perfect execution, they're tuning in to see vulnerability. They want to see superstars react when their usual advantages disappear, when the margin for error is literally zero. That kind of pressure creates a different type of drama, one that feels raw, human, and unpredictable. It turns tennis players from distant, almost untouchable figures into people who can lose everything in a heartbeat, just like anyone else. And in an era where authenticity drives engagement, that relatability is powerful. Whether this becomes a recurring fixture or a one-off spectacle, it's already done its job by forcing conversation, dividing opinion, and pulling attention right into the heart of the Australian Open. In the end, that single point won't just decide a winner, it will mark a cultural checkpoint for tennis itself, proof that the sport is willing to experiment, willing to be uncomfortable, and willing to risk criticism to stay alive in a rapidly changing world. Love it or hate it, this isn't noise on the side of the Australian Open. It's a signal, and once that signal is sent, tennis can never pretend it didn't mean it. When the dust settles, the scorelines will be forgotten, but the idea that tennis dared to gamble its identity on a single point will stick, and that alone makes this experiment impossible to ignore. And that gamble says more about the modern sports landscape than it does about tennis itself, because every major sport is being forced to answer the same question. Do you protect tradition at all costs, or do you evolve fast enough to stay culturally relevant? The one-point slam feels like tennis finally admitting that it's competing not just with other sports, but with TikTok, YouTube highlights, and an audience that wants instant stakes and instant payoff. A single point for $1 million is easy to understand, easy to clip, and impossible to ignore. There's no learning curve, no scoring confusion, no patience required, and that accessibility is exactly why it's dangerous and brilliant at the same time. For the players, this is less about chasing money, more about signaling fearlessness, showing that they're willing to step outside the comfort of controlled excellence and into pure uncertainty. That confidence sends a message. Their greatness isn't fragile, and for fans, especially younger ones, it reframes tennis as something bold, playful, and self-aware, rather than stiff and untouchable. Whether this format becomes a replacement or a glorious one-off, it's already done its job by forcing conversation, dividing opinion, and pulling attention right into the heart of the Australian Open. In the end, that single point won't just decide a winner, it will mark a cultural checkpoint for tennis itself, proof that the sport is willing to experiment, willing to be uncomfortable, and willing to risk criticism to stay alive in a rapidly changing world. Love it or hate it, this isn't noise on the side of the Australian Open. It's a signal, and once that signal is sent, tennis can never pretend it didn't mean it. What's fascinating is how exposed the psychology of elite athletes becomes under this format. In a normal match, nerves settle, rhythm develops, and confidence can rebuild after mistakes. Here, there is no forgiveness. One rushed decision, one mistimed swing, one flicker of doubt, and it's over. That kind of pressure reveals who truly trusts their instincts and who relies on repetition and structure. Watching world-class players prepare for a single point will be more revealing than watching them grind through a full match, because every choice becomes intentional, every movement magnified. Fans won't be analyzing technique, they'll be reading body language, hesitation, swagger, and fear. And that's where the entertainment value explodes. The reactions will matter as much as the result. The stunned silence after an upset, the awkward smile when a superstar loses on a net cord, the roar of the crowd when an amateur steps onto the court knowing they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The tension won't come from rallies or scorelines, but from reactions, the disbelief, the laughter, the stunned silence when a lucky return clips the line and sends a superstar packing. Whether purists like it or not, this exhibition exposes a deeper truth about where tennis is headed. The sport is learning how to coexist with entertainment without fully surrendering to it. If this experiment succeeds, it could redefine how exhibitions are staged, how stars engage fans, and how tennis markets itself to a generation raised on highlights instead of matches. And if it fails, it will still be unforgettable. Either way, the moment $1 million comes down to one swing of the racket, tennis won't look quite the same again.